This video is brought to you by Hymn to the Earless God. If you're like me, you skip most sponsored segments, which I understand, but I genuinely think this game looks really special and would appeal to most of my audience who enjoys emotional storytelling and role-playing games. An RPG from the creator of Jimmy and the Pulsating Mass, Hymn to the Earless God features multiple playable insectoids in a brutal and unforgiving world. Combat requires careful consideration of enemy placement and your abilities. You can even devour defeated insects to gain back your health, which I haven't done in a video game in a very long time. It felt awesome to do, quite frankly, and even necessary, as some of these battles can be pretty tough. The sprite art is fantastic, with the UI in particular being a standout. Each of the four main characters deals with a different calamity threatening the planet, and the gameplay is inspired by Chrono Trigger and the Lennis series. Links to the demo on Steam as well as the Kickstarter that ends on the 29th of this month are in the description. Thanks to the Hymn team for sponsoring this video. Hero's Fever Dream is an absolutely bizarre mod that attempts to show us Hero's reaction to the truth at the end of OMORI. Things kick off strong as we're planted exactly where the main game left off, in that hospital room. Sonny exclaims that there's something he needs to tell us before we fade into a dark room with just the headspace versions of Mari and Hero. Both say that they don't know where they are and they agree to help each other get home. Mari asks if you're feeling nervous, and if you say yes, she gives Hero a hug with a big close-up. After this, you can head through the glowing doorway to explore a big open level that has a very curious NPC named Bob. He'll answer some of your questions about the surrounding area, but the way to advance is by interacting with enough different things in the level. This will cause a sound to occur near the mirror on the left side of the map. Interacting with it prompts a fight between Hero and his reflection, who, logically, has to be named Villain. Villain can be attacked in the traditional sense or talked to via an Undertale-styled dialogue system. This applies to all enemies you fight in this mod, and committing to attacking or talking to everything is how you get the bad or good endings, respectively. Talking to him several times allows Hero to eventually forgive himself, and the battle ends. You're taken back to the starting room with Mari and explain that you couldn't find any answers as to why you're both here, but that you did fight a mirror version of yourself, which is probably normal enough for Headspace. Heading through the door again brings us to the next room, and we are forced into this side-scroller dimension where we can only move two directions. Heading all the way right brings up some dialogue saying nothing is over here and that you should head in the other direction. Points for honesty, I guess. I'm reluctant to call this next part a platforming section, even if there is jumping involved, because how it works is very strange. Hero's paper-themed sprites are certainly cute, and it's novel seeing a situation so out of line with the main title's typical gameplay loop, but on a playability front, this is a real nothing burger. Your jumps are entirely context-dependent, so you can only do them at these marked points. On top of that, there's a really weird timing requirement where you have to press the Z or X key at certain intervals to do the leap in the first place. I don't expect perfect action set pieces from an RPG Maker game, let alone a fan-made one, but after playing Lisa the Painful and even Lisa the Hopeful, I've seen what people are capable of when it comes to timing challenges, even if it's in RPG Maker, and Hero's Fever Dream unfortunately fails to live up to those ambitions. Clearing the stage and entering the next brings us to the most impressive visual in this mod, and it's this vast forest area that slowly gives way to frantic, static noise and distortion. Sure, it's visuals recycled from the main game, but still scary to see all the same. Entering the door at the far end of the map brings you to the inside of the treehouse where Hero's friends like to play. Pro tip, because I was stuck here until the mod's creator told me what to do: interact with everything in the room 2 times to progress the story. Hero's friends all enter the room being their usual selves. Interacting with this toaster causes Life Jam Guy to burst into the room. He critiques your decision to put jam inside the toaster, so he begins to fight you, which is honestly very understandable. Interacting with him via dialogue in this fight gives you some very passive-aggressive dialogue. As the battle progresses, though, he does eventually let bygones be bygones, and you're able to advance to the next room in this story, which looks a lot like Last Resort from vanilla OMORI. We cut to Hero in the CEO's office lamenting his boring job, and a floating piece of paper enters the room demanding that Hero do his taxes, which ultimately breaks out into a fight. This isn't the only one of these you'll do battle with in this mod, and they have a respectable amount of health health, so be careful. Hiro enters the next room and bumps into Mari. He concedes he's not doing too well because he just quit his job and that taxes are trying to zero in on him from all sides. Mari agrees that this is not a good situation and decides to join your party. Nice. You'll explore this bigger room, occasionally sparring with these enemies along the way. This is our first fight with Mari in the party, so what can she do? Well, she has a healing move that she can use on either herself or Hiro, which is good because Hiro's heal ability only works on himself, and she can encourage Hiro, in case the taxes make him sad, I guess. There's this funny bit of dialogue in these fights where it says taxes confuse the hell out of everyone, which honestly made me laugh. We're coming to the conclusion of this story. There are 3 different endings to this mod, one of which has Mari talking Hiro off the roof, explaining that what happened wasn't anyone's fault, and that Hiro's guilt and anger are both misplaced. When Hiro is out of his headspace, he calls Sunny, leaving a voicemail and apologizing for not talking to him earlier. Cathartic, to say the least. The bad ending is, as you'd expect, infinitely sadder. Hiro essentially coaxes himself into never waking up again, even going as far as to use his own pretty boy expression to convince himself, which, while sad, I thought was kind of brilliant from a storytelling perspective. Kel tries to wake Hiro up in the late afternoon, but is distraught to learn that that's never gonna happen again. Jesus, Kel always makes out the worst when it comes to the bad endings, doesn't he? Brutal, brutal stuff. The neutral ending has less going on than either of these two, but it does confirm where Kel stands in the headcanon. Hiro doesn't permit himself to be on speaking terms with Sunny, but Kel answers the phone reassuring Sunny that what happened wasn't his fault. And honestly, as long as Kel forgives us, that's all I care about. This game does have achievements, and provided you get all of them, you'll get a secret cutscene for the good or bad route. The bad one is quite a bummer. A picnic scene happens in Headspace, with all of the friends falling into their usual tropes. Aubrey tells a story about how fond she is of Sunny. She's angry that Kel fell asleep during her speech. Sunny concedes that he liked the story, quite unsurprisingly. It seems even in a fictional and romanticized version of the friend group's dynamic, Kel and Aubrey still can't get along. Also, Hiro should have woken up the instant Sunny started talking, because if that's not the biggest indicator that you're in a dream segment, I don't know what is. Before I talk about the good ending secret cutscene, it's important to communicate some stuff about this mod. Hiro's fever dream doesn't have the same level of authenticity that something like Autumn Break does, but nor does it have writing so jarring that it'll occasionally take you out of the experience like day 224. The dialogue is sufficient and at times able to tug on the heartstrings like its parent official game, especially in its optional content. Whether it's worth getting to those moments or not because of its clunkier segments like the platforming and grindy last resort section are gonna fall entirely on your own tastes. But for me personally, something about these endings and Hiro and Mari's interactions just hit right for me. It may stumble in its execution, but what it gets right, it hits hard with. Sunny is in town post-confession, hanging out with his friends. He sits close to Aubrey, but not too close. Perhaps they're still working up to be where they were before. Basil and Kel are playing next to them, and Hiro tells Mari about what he just experienced throughout this story.